Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, and welcome to the first in a series of 3 customized technical trainings being offered by VEIC during the month of May. My name is Zoe Dawson, and I'm going to be facilitating today's conversation on refrigeration. I'm a senior consultant at VEIC, and I help support the energy management practice area. That's the group that's helped to develop these condensed technical overviews for your benefit. I'm also going to be joined today by 3 leading refrigeration experts, and we're just really happy to see so many of you interested and registered for today's conversation. Before we dive into today's agenda and I get around to introducing my fellow presenters, I just wanted to go through a few quick housekeeping items. A reminder to everybody that these trainings are being recorded, but we will be providing both the slide deck and the recording through VEIC's website by the end of the month, and that information will be made available to everybody who registered to participate in today's training. These trainings, while they do contain technical content, we also do want to make sure that people are aware we're not aligning them with any CEU offering. Through the GoToWebinar platform as well, which you've logged into, to help reduce any unnecessary feedback or technical challenges, we have muted all of the participants, and you will be remain on mute throughout the presentation. We do want to hear your questions though, so please make sure that you use the question or the chat box in the GoToWebinar features so that you can type in and submit your questions to the presenters as they go through their presentations today. We'll be facilitating a review and response to all of those questions at the end of this presentation. So we'll leave roughly around 5 to 10 minutes to help go through anything that you want us to go a little bit more in detail on. And obviously, we're happy to help answer any additional follow-up questions after this meeting as well. One of the key things that we want to make sure that we're doing is that we're all learning how to best leverage these different platforms that we're all having to use now. We're all looking to deliver trainings more effectively while we're working away from the office. We want to make sure the information that we're providing is really informative and is helping us to do our jobs better, to engage on efficiency better, to help strengthen our teams and support our customers. So we're going to be providing you with a short survey after this presentation is over. The link's going to be integrated into the slide deck, so if you have time to do that while we're on the call, that will be fantastic. But again, it'll be provided after this presentation is over alongside an email with a link to the PDF slide deck as well. Now, before we get started, I know that a lot of the people that I see are in attendance on today's conversations, are familiar with VEIC, but I wanted to share just a few quick notes for those who might not know so much about us. We're a nonprofit, mission-driven organization. We have experts in efficiency, building, transportation, electrification, and we're really focused on developing new approaches for clean and flexible grid. We work across the US. This map provides a nice little indication of all the various different states that you may be located in and listening in from, where we work. And we have a global vision to create and generate the energy solutions that the world really needs. From my review again of who signed up for this presentation and those that I can see on the line today, I know that we've been lucky to work with many of you, including utilities, other energy and environmental offices, businesses, transit agencies, and foundations and nonprofits from across the country. And we're really excited to be talking with you today because we're really looking to discuss how we can navigate the challenges that we're facing today. At VEIC, one of our critical goals has always been to work with our clients. We want to work with them to help them develop new innovative solutions. We want to work with them to address complex energy challenges, and we really want to help deliver the impact for the people that need it the most. That's our mission. We can all recognize that over the past 2 months, the COVID-19 pandemic has really reinforced this need for us all to think strategically together how we can help. And one of the things that we're looking to do through today's webinar training and in our future webinar trainings is to help combine some of the perspectives that we've learned, to share some of our insights, our lessons learned, and our best practices around how we've looked to customize trainings, engage different target markets, and provide value to our end user customers, and to share that information with you. We're really excited about providing this to you today. And again, like over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be providing other condensed versions of our 3 most popular technical trainings delivered by our in-house experts. So who are you going to be hearing from today? As I mentioned, I'm actually joined remotely by 3 of our leading consulting and engineering experts in refrigeration, Ethan Bellevant, Nicole Duquette, and Ali White from VEIC's Energy Services team. They're actually part of a larger 8 energy consultant team that actively engages with players in the grocery industry across the United States. Specifically, they focus on providing project and utility rebate management, program development and design support, in contractor engagement and training, and they have a keen focus and interest on natural refrigerant technologies. So what are we going to be covering? So today, this is the agenda for you to be reviewing. We're going to be sharing with you how to best connect with your commercial business customers, how you can help support those critical refrigerant needs by building resiliency through your efficiency programs, through your projects, and to really focus on delivering environmental, economic, and health benefits to your customers. Ethan, Ali, and Nicole are specifically going to walk you through a quick condensed overview of the key benefits associated with refrigeration, some key efficiency measures that you should be considering, as well as equipment maintenance activities to keep to mind. We're going to be strictly focusing on low cost, no cost initiatives, and our goal is to provide you with actionable information that you can start using today, tomorrow, Monday. Now I'm going to bring conversations back to the team who are going to be walking you through things today, and I'm going to hand things over to Ethan to kick things off.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Zoe. Can everyone hear me all right?
You can. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. So yeah, I'm honored to be able to kind of do the intro into refrigeration. So I'm going to quickly go over and cover what are refrigerants, where you guys are going to be able to see and find refrigerants in your businesses and in your customer locations. And then, why we find focusing on refrigeration at VEIC to be so important, why we think you guys and your business should feel and value refrigeration with a high level of importance, and then why it's also super important to your end use clients. Next slide, please. So let's first start off with the basics. So what are refrigerants? I don't know if people have seen, up here, the first refrigerant canister here is R22, typically called Freon. Refrigerants as a whole, they're working fluids that can be easily manipulated between phases. So they can get shifted between a liquid phase and a gas phase pretty quickly and easily. And what that allows us to do is effectively and efficiently move heat from one location to another. These refrigerants are used in every air conditioning system, refrigeration system that we use to power our modern economy. It's important to realize that these refrigerants in an ideal case are input into a closed cycle system so that they stay and they're able to be reused again and again through the vapor compression process. Next slide, please. So why do we care about refrigerants? They're really responsible for everything that we hold near and dear to our heart. If we think about our home, refrigerants are used to keep our houses cool, to keep our food fresh, and if you think about our life, refrigerants are used to keep our cars cool with air conditioning. They're used extensively in the grocery store industry to keep our food safe, and used in the entire cold supply chain to make sure that food from farm to your plate is delivered with the highest quality and safety possible. And then they're also responsible for some of the funner things in life. Ice cream when you get together with your families and sit down to watch a little TV at the end of the day. They also are responsible for beer, which is, a very important thing these days to be able to unwind from the stress of home life. So they're pretty integral to what we use for our human society. Next slide, please, Zoe. So where are refrigerants found? In the commercial space, so if we think about, office buildings, warehouses, retail locations, refrigerants are going to be found in pretty much every ventilation system. Every rooftop unit has refrigeration and refrigerants in it. Every dedicated outdoor air system, like this photo on the left, has refrigerant in it to make sure that the air coming into your building is, properly dehumidified. All VRF systems or home mini split systems have refrigerants in them, and they are the working fluids that allow you to easily and efficiently, from an energy standpoint, air condition and heat commercial spaces. Next slide, please, Zoe. So where are refrigerants found in the home? All mini split air conditioners and heat pumps that we're pushing heavily in the Northeast market are filled with refrigerants, typically R410A, and they're able to, from an energy efficient standpoint, with a very small amount of energy, air condition and heat our homes. All window air conditioners are using refrigerants, and then the fridges and freezers that we use on a daily basis to store our food have refrigerants in them as well. Next slide, please, Zoe. So refrigeration, when we kind of zoom out to the macro view, it accounts for 17% of our world's energy consumption. And then in specific markets, it's much higher than that. So if we, my colleagues, Nicole and Ali and I really focus in the grocery store area quite a bit. And that's primarily because grocery stores, a significant amount of their energy spend is spent on refrigeration. While refrigeration is applicable to all customers, grocery stores have a high energy burden on the refrigeration market. And convenience stores have a significant amount, especially as they're moving more towards like walk-in beer caves. Their refrigerant horsepower and pounds of refrigerant being used are increasing. But then also important to realize that, every restaurant has a walk-in cooler and a freezer that is using a significant amount of energy, and we can cut that energy spend. Every hotel has walk-in coolers or freezers or ice machines on every floor. So it's quite ubiquitous, and it's a really good area to target and focus on for increasing energy efficiency. Next slide, please, Zoe. So why does VEIC and why do we care about refrigeration? This is really, VEIC's true north is carbon, and we're trying to save this beautiful planet that we all call home. And refrigeration is both directly focused or associated with a couple of the top 10 things that we can do to reduce our impact on this planet. First, all refrigerants that I've talked about are super pollutants typically. So all refrigerants that are typically used today are hydrofluorocarbons, and they have global warming potentials 2,000 to 4,000 times higher than carbon dioxide. From a layman's terms, 1 pound of a typical refrigerant R404A is equivalent to 2 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. So there's a big importance for us to make sure that the refrigerants we're using are staying in the pipes and not leaking into our atmosphere, and that we're also talking about and transitioning to lower GWP refrigerants, specifically natural refrigerants. Refrigeration is also directly related to a reduction in food waste. We as a global society throw out a lot of food. In North America, in the North American continent, we're throwing about 300 kilograms of food out per day or per person per year, which is a significant amount. And if we have improve our cold chain in our processes to get food from the farm to the plate, we can significantly cut that down. And refrigeration has a really big role to play there. Next slide, please, Zoe. So we talked about, why VEIC cares about refrigeration and all of the climate benefits associated with that. But why should you guys care about refrigeration? There's significant energy savings associated with installing or adjusting installing new refrigeration systems or adjusting existing refrigeration systems. Significant energy savings can be achieved there. What we're finding through our years working in this sector is the cost to go from a baseline refrigeration system to a high efficiency refrigeration system are pretty small. We're typically, in the worst case scenarios, we're seeing 3-year paybacks, and sometimes we're seeing paybacks under 1 year to install best-in-class refrigeration equipment. If you haven't already gotten the message, refrigeration is ubiquitous in our society, and it's everywhere. So the amount of energy efficiency measures that are applicable is very high. Traditionally, energy efficiency utilities and utilities as a whole haven't really focused in on this market, which means that there's a significant amount of potential. Like VEIC, I imagine most of your organizations are concerned about climate change and trying to focus on mitigating its impacts. And this is a really effective way to do that. Another really important thing to keep in mind is resiliency. These refrigeration systems are critical pieces of infrastructure that allow our population to stay safe and healthy. If we don't have refrigeration, we don't have vaccines. If we don't have refrigeration, we don't have access to safe food. So when this breaks down, it's pretty apparent that our society breaks down. So we really need to focus and keep this sector top of mind. Next slide, please, Zoe. So why should your customers focus on refrigeration? And what's a good way to kind of sell efficiency? This is the approach that we've always taken, and we'll kind of get into it. So Zoe, next slide. One thing that we always try and message to our end use customers is that refrigeration and the energy consumption associated with it is relatively cheap, even though the energy spend is large when you compare it to the product that refrigeration system is storing. Another reason why resiliency is so important, and how newer, higher efficiency refrigeration systems are actually more resilient than the older ones. But we always want to lead with the aspect that we never want to do anything to your refrigeration system that would sacrifice its resiliency or its longevity. In fact, a lot of the energy efficiency measures that we can talk about are actually going to increase systems resiliency while reducing energy consumption. So that's really an important message to be leading with when you're talking with your end use clients. When I talk with customers, sure, I can save them $50,000 a year in energy, but I also have to make sure that the $10 million of product that they're storing at any one point in time is being kept safe for their customers. Next slide, please, Zoe. So here's just a high-level, graph that shows, it's a good place to put your money. If we look at energy efficiency, we are typically seeing very high rates of return, internal rates of return. I see projects that are much higher than this in the 50 to 60% internal rate of return. And if you look at it, there's not a lot of places where you can get that return on investment, especially in the market these days. So it's a good place for your end use customers to be focusing on, and it's a good place from a utility and efficiency standpoint to be focusing on as well. Next slide, please, Zoe. So we kind of already touched on this, but kind of breaking it down, what do we talk about, and what should you guys be talking about when you're talking about refrigeration energy efficiency with your end use clients? You can reduce your energy cost. New efficient refrigeration equipment can reduce energy costs by up to 50%. I see 50% reductions pretty regularly. In addition to that, you're cutting energy costs, you're increasing reliability. New equipment and the new design of equipment has significant benefits in terms of reliability and remote diagnostic and detection capabilities. So now our contractors can be made aware of when things go wrong before your client comes in and finds all the ice cream melted on the floor. We can know about that pretty quickly. And then short payback stuff. The measures we're going to talk about today, we're typically seeing under a 1-year payback or under when we're looking at the incremental cost to implement these energy efficiency measures and associated utility incentives. And with that, I will hand it over to Nicole. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, Ethan. And thanks for joining us today. As Ethan said, I'm Nicole, and so I'm going to be talking about the energy efficiency measures and some of the different markets and technologies that we see these measures in. So this is really where we're tying it all together and where we can have impact on our climate and kind of work to transform that market. So how do we build efficiency programs? How do we engage with our customers? And then how do we achieve and claim savings in all of that? Next slide, please. Great. So when we're talking about energy efficiency measures, kind of what does that look like? We're talking about all these different customers with commercial refrigeration equipment. So that's everyone from smaller grocery markets and convenience stores to hospitals, colleges, and universities, and then also some of the smaller schools and the standalone units. And we'll kind of talk about what all those different customer markets look like and how do we cater to them? How do we engage those customers? Some of the smaller markets might need a little bit more hand-holding. You know, all of these customers aren't really thinking about their refrigeration systems. They're thinking about the products that they're selling. And that's really where their profit and their business comes into play. So working with those customers to help inform them about their systems, how they operate, what they should be thinking about to optimize those systems is really where we can have the most impact, both in the immediate term and finding different efficiency measures, but also in that education, the knowledge transfer that then leads to market transformation impacts. And where VEIC has really found a niche is in engaging with contractors and distributors and really working with them in a way that allows them to have a say in kind of what technologies really work, what do they see in the field as opposed to kind of design applications, what works, what doesn't, and building programs together with them that are really going to help us, being the efficiency utility and the contractors, better serve our customers. And so we're thinking about these technologies in the market and what the new innovations are and really staying ahead of the field and finding out what's the latest and creating new programs and products that promote these efficiency measures and testing it with our customers. So we're talking here about new equipment and retrofitting equipment, kind of what's the best application for each of these. You know, there's no one size that fits all to meet our customers. So trying to work with them and decide, is this a business decision? Is it a resiliency decision? And kind of meet the customer where they're at. And in terms of talking about their bottom line, their products, what paybacks they need to make the project work for them. So next slide, please. So this is just kind of a broad list of all the efficiency measures that we now offer. And, you know, I organize them into kind of prescriptive and midstream measures and then some of the more custom measures, but there's a lot of overlap between the lists. You know, we go from more simple measures to a lot more complex. And we're looking at both new equipment as well as some of the preventative maintenance work that we're doing, because we've realized that it's just as important for customers to get new and functioning equipment and to repair and optimize existing equipment as it is to maintain the equipment that's there, to make sure that it's operating as designed, to make sure that it's not using more energy than needed without having to buy new. So that's really been a new area that we've started exploring, specifically with some of the refrigerant leak detection and repair, consolidating and downsizing equipment, as well as cleaning cases. So those have been some of the newer innovations that we've been looking towards. So just wanted to show you this list. It's not comprehensive, but just gives you some of the ideas of the ways that we're able to better serve our customers. And so next slide, please, Zoe. And now we're going to start going into some of these markets and technologies. So where do we see this equipment? How do we identify the opportunities that exist with the equipment? And then what are the benefits, both to the customer, to the operating costs, to maintenance costs, and how do we optimize those systems. Next slide, please. So we'll start here with walk-in coolers. So these are some of the bigger customers that have permanent storage spaces. So walk-in coolers, walk-in freezers, you often see them in a lot of restaurants, in grocery stores, some of the colleges and universities, maybe some hospitals that have big cafeterias. And so that's kind of the market here. Next slide, please. So when we're talking about walk-ins, there's a couple different pieces of equipment specifically that I'll touch on here. For big systems, you have multiple compressor racks and that can serve multiple suction groups, multiple temperature groups, multiple different loads. So walk-ins reach in cases that are on the sales floor. But then you can also have packaged condensing units where the system is all together in one box. You have the compressor, the condenser fans, the suction accumulators, and everything kind of in one system that's often on the roof or in a back storage room. And then we'll also touch here on evaporators. And these evaporators are specifically for the walk-in coolers. So the ones that are mounted above all the products in the space that you walk into that's refrigerated. And then we'll touch later on some of the reach-in cases, both remote and self-contained, but that's in a different section here. So now we'll go to the next slide, thank you, and talk about some of the efficiency measures that we're dealing with here. So in kind of no particular order, we're going to talk about these condensing units, and what we're seeing is high efficiency condensing units, and these are being rolled out at the manufacturer level. So it's something that we're really trying to promote, and within that kind of package system, you have a scroll compressor, and sometimes for some of the larger units, we're now seeing discus compressors as well. So the scroll and discus are the hermetic and semi-hermetic efficient compressor varieties. And then with that, we're seeing variable speed condenser fan motors that then allow us to float that head pressure. So dropping the saturated condensing temperature when outdoor air temperatures allow it to still reject heat. And then another measure that we're seeing as part of this packaged high efficiency condensing unit are microchannel heat exchangers. And so these versus the traditional copper coil heat exchangers reduce the size of the coil itself. So it increases the heat transfer area by about like 20 to 30%. It also works to reduce the refrigerant charge and the cost associated with that refrigerant going into the system, and just improves the durability. So this really helps in some of the warmer climates where you aren't allowed to, or you can't really effectively drop the head pressure as much. So, you know, both of these are great options as part of the high efficiency condensing unit. And certainly as we're talking about this packaged high efficiency unit, all of these measures could be done as a package system or as individual systems, but we're really trying to promote the installation of these systems that are designed to work together and be efficient together. And so with all the benefits that we've listed, there's energy savings associated with all of these efficiency measures that we're talking about. We just haven't explicitly said that, but often all of the efficiency measures in this section have less than a 2-year payback before utility incentives. So this is why we're trying to promote it today. So now moving on to the low pressure side. Oops, can we go back just one moment, Zoe, and talk about the evaporators. So this is on the low pressure side contained in the walk-in. So it can have 2 to 6 fans and replacing out the evaporator fan motors. So upgrading from shaded pole or permanent split capacitor to ECM, so the electronically commutated motors, or in walk-ins, we've seen a lot of success with Q-synchronous motors. And there's about 60% energy savings here. And it's a really easy measure for customers to start with. So this would be a good place for a retrofit. And now if we go to the next slide, thank you. We can also then do a full evaporator upgrade. So this is the kind of new equipment side and this high efficiency evaporators. And as we kind of coined it, the HEVAPs. And this is kind of that same package system as we saw with the high efficiency condensing units, where you've got modulating fan motors, you have controls to adjust the speed of those fan motors, and then you have intelligent defrost systems that work on demand. And so that system, again, is designed to work together so it's inherently efficient, and it has then an integral electronic expansion valve in order to do that smart defrost. And so then with the rack systems, as we're talking about it with customers, this is a whole bigger efficiency measure that we won't really get into right now because there's just so many opportunities with rack systems. Some of the big ones that we've worked with our customers with have been the floating head and suction pressure controls. So reducing the lift on the compressor by adjusting some of the suction and head pressure set points. And then adding VFDs to both compressors and condensers when they're separate in a rack system like this, and controlling the speed of those, the fan and the compressor motor, to better match the refrigeration load in the system. But there are a lot of other measures that we can talk about in detail, kind of offline. So next slide, please. So now we're moving into the remote refrigerated cases. So these are what you would see on the sales floor. They display the product either in an open refrigerated display where it's easy access to reach in, or closed behind doors. And then in this system, the condensing unit or the rack is in a back room, or it's kind of removed from this display case. And so where we often see this is the grocery store market, convenience stores, some of the gas stations, as well as hospitals and some of the colleges. So next slide, please. So the equipment here that we're going to be talking about is the actual reach-in display case, because we didn't cover that in the last section. And so what's contained in this box is the evaporator fan motors, the evaporator coils that then transfer the heat. Often you have some lighting to illuminate the products being displayed, and then doors on closed cases. And there's also the opportunity for night covers, but on open cases. And then with the closed cases, you often have door and frame heater controls that prevent condensation from building up on those doors. And so the efficiency measures that we have here are both new equipment or retrofit opportunities. And when we are talking about new equipment, we're gonna try and persuade customers to go with high efficiency, DOE compliant or Energy Star cases that all use natural refrigerants. But there's also an opportunity to help customers just upgrade, retrofit, optimize their existing systems in terms of replacing components or cleaning the existing components. Next slide, please. So here are a couple of the efficiency measures. I'll go into 3 of them here. One would be anti-sweat heater controls. And this is a heater, it's electric resistance that's installed in the door frame, as well as the case frame, and can build temperatures in your refrigerated space of up to like 150 degrees. And so their refrigeration system's having to remove all of that, and controls can help cycle those heaters off. We can do this in a couple different ways. There's timer controls where it's seasonally adjusted, or a couple minutes on and several minutes off each day, and it cycles per hour. Or we can do case by case and control it on a humidistat, so based on indoor relative humidity. And it just reduces that heat gain in the case that's completely unnecessary, but still keeps the product visible and prevents condensation from dripping onto the floor and creating a safety hazard. So that's one great option. And then changing out your case lights, maybe adding sensors as well. This helps reduce the heat gain from the case from older inefficient lights. It also improves the light quality, so the visibility of the product for customers. You can change the configuration of the lights. So instead of having horizontal canopy and nose lights, maybe you create vertical lights to have more uniform light distribution within the case, and remove the lights from some of those products, so get them further away. Next slide, please. And then this is a measure that we've seen a lot of success with, is specifically adding doors. Night covers are good too for some of those smaller customers that really value the grab and go, the efficient case convenience. But adding doors, we can reduce the refrigeration load by 70%. And this is putting doors on any open case, so dairy, beer, fresh meat, deli products, really anything you can put behind except for anything with misters. So fresh produce isn't really a good option here, but amazing benefits, both energy and non-energy. I want to highlight the resiliency thing because it just seems so current with the COVID crisis happening. Is adding a door provides a barrier between the customer and their food products that they may take home. So it improves case temperatures and it gives an opportunity to really improve their overall refrigeration system efficiency. So we've had a lot of success at the national level as well as locally with smaller grocery stores and installing doors. Next slide, please. So I'll quickly move on to kind of this self-contained merchandiser. And this is a kind of plug and play device. And it's the units that we often see in smaller stores where the condensing unit, the evaporator, and the evaporator fans are all contained within this one piece of equipment. Next slide, please. So this just gives you a good visual display of what we're talking about when we're talking about self-contained merchandisers. These are all different types: horizontal, vertical, semi-vertical. We have coolers and freezers, glass or solid door. And then you can also see the full height under counter or the sandwich prep tables that we're talking about here. Next slide, please. And so these self-contained units, it's kind of a package deal, and a lot of the units are rented. So a lot of convenience stores rent them from the vendors, and so you're still talking about the same efficiency measures. Here we're really trying to promote natural refrigerants and high efficiency units. Historically, we really haven't had a way to claim savings associated with some of these more unique refrigeration setups. So this is a great opportunity to use Energy Star and DOE to push customers towards more efficient pieces of equipment. Next slide, please. So here are some of the energy savings and non-energy benefits here. The self-contained cases really provide a lot of flexibility for customers, and they have a lot of inherent energy savings contained within them. One of the biggest benefits is because these are often smaller markets that the self-contained cases are installed in, they're smaller stores or smaller businesses that they're installed in. And by increasing the efficiency of these cases, you're reducing the waste heat that's being put right into that store. And that's one of these, with the self-contained units, all the heat is being rejected to the space that the refrigerator is in. So it's inherently less efficient. So upgrading these cases is a really big opportunity. And I think that wraps up the energy efficiency section, and I'll pass it on to Allie.
Great, thanks, Nicole. And thanks everyone for being here today. Next slide, please, Zoe. So I'm gonna dive right into preventive maintenance, which is one of the more exciting topics, in my opinion, that we've been able to work on recently. So as most of you are probably familiar, preventive maintenance has huge benefits to our customers, to contractors, to the resiliency of our systems, but typically it's energy savings that are present in preventive maintenance measures are difficult to quantify. And so, you know, that still remains true, but certainly, especially during this time, it's really important that we all think outside the box, get creative with how we can support our customers and our workers, reflectors during time. And preventive maintenance is one of the ways VEIC has found to be really successful in doing that. So like I mentioned, there are savings, not all preventive maintenance measures, although they're historically difficult to claim from a utility standpoint. Another benefit is you're able to gain contractor trust by understanding the importance of and advocating to customers for preventative maintenance. Our refrigeration contractors are really, we have found to be a huge asset in terms of both implementing energy efficiency measures and also ensuring that there's savings persistence. They see and touch that equipment and know it better than we, or in most cases the customers, ever will. And so gaining their trust and working with them and listening to them is incredibly important. That being said, customers sometimes don't see the value of preventive maintenance, so it's important to have these conversations. And then you'll see kind of what we talk about high level when we talk about preventive maintenance in the chart on the right. And then from our standpoint, one of the biggest benefits is that having our customers and contractors aware of and implementing preventative maintenance allows for planned equipment upgrades rather than emergencies. And I'm sure most of us are familiar with the situations where customers have a piece of equipment go down, especially an essential piece of equipment like their refrigeration system. They need to get a new system installed before they lose their product, which, as Ethan mentioned, is much more valuable to them than the refrigeration equipment. And so if it's an emergency situation, they're going to buy whatever is on the shelf, and that is 9 times out of 10 not a high efficiency piece of equipment. And so we just lost that window to have an energy efficiency market opportunity for potentially the next 20 years for that piece of equipment. So really prioritizing preventative maintenance and having those conversations with our customers allows them to make planned upgrades and pick best-in-class technologies, and we get to work with them to cover that incremental cost and provide energy savings analysis. Next slide, please. When we're talking about preventative maintenance, what exactly do we mean by that? This is far from an exhaustive list, but just a few of the things that we have seen as preventive maintenance measures: door seals, filters on the suction lines, gaskets, air sealing around a walk-in cooler or freezer, insulating the suction lines, adding strip curtains to walk-in coolers and freezers, having automatic door closures for reach-in cases, and refrigerant leak repair, and just general refrigerant management. Again, not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the measures that we've identified that do have certainly an energy impact, as well as resiliency and overall equipment lifetime. Next slide, please. So insulating the suction lines, we're just going to talk through a couple of the measures that are on that list. Happy to talk more offline about any of the preventive maintenance measures, of course, and hear what other folks are seeing or what they're able to support. So, but insulating the suction lines we found to have pretty significant energy savings. Also, it touches on a lot of important non-energy benefits like human health and safety. So condensate control, you don't have condensate leaking onto a warehouse floor that someone could slip on and get hurt. Product quality issues. Insulating the suction lines allows, the refrigerant to stay at the proper temperature, and so it's able to absorb the amount of heat that it needs to have your refrigeration system maintain temperature set point. Also significant energy savings, especially in low temp applications. The higher your delta T is of that refrigerant to the ambient temperature, the more energy savings there are with insulation. Same thing works with steam lines and any sort of thing where you're moving a liquid or gas that's a much higher, much lower temperature than ambient conditions. Insulation always makes sense. Next, please. Nicole mentioned that one of the preventive maintenance measures that we've grappled with for how to support and are pretty excited to be diving into is case coil cleaning. Kurt Matzke, who is one of the very talented refrigeration contractors that we work with in Vermont, said that the biggest thing you can do for energy efficiency is clean your dang coils. And it's really true, and it's something that I think we all lose sight of in the utility industry when we're looking at widgets and the bells and whistles for efficiency, when a lot of times, just cleaning condenser and evaporator coils can have a significant improvement on efficiency. Just as an example, 1/10 of an inch of scale is equivalent to 30% efficiency reduction in terms of the heat transfer that you can get across that coil. When we're talking about coil cleaning, coils inside the store are case evaporators, which also have health benefits, which I'll get into. Self-contained units. Nicole mentioned those self-contained units are dumping a lot of heat onto the sales floor. If there's grime and dirt and anything that they pick up on the sales floor on those condenser coils, it's so much more difficult for that heat to be rejected than if it was a nice clean coil. And so that's added inefficiency, that's added waste heat that is going out onto the sales floor and then has to be handled by the HVAC system. Coils outside the store, condensers and condensing units outside on the roof can certainly be prone to scale or rust. And then this is all applicable to HVAC as well, any sort of big rooftop unit or the dedicated outdoor air systems and the big Four Seasons units that you'd see at grocery stores. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about coil cleaning. In a grocery store application, it's typically done by store staff, and this tends to fall lower on the priority list because there's plenty of things for store employees to be doing. They also need to empty cases, so it can take a long time. There is equipment out there that makes it faster and easier. One that we've seen customers interested in is I haven't seen any other products like it, but this is just one example of potentially what's out there. It's called a Kaivac case cleaner. It's in that picture on the right. And it's essentially just a pressure washer wet vac. And in addition to the energy benefits, it's really important for just long-term equipment reliability. And again, harping on that resiliency during this time, and also food safety and quality. If you go on Kaivac's website, they have some very eye-opening videos of what reaching case evaporators can look like. There can be definitely an environment where bacteria could collect, and so especially in grocery stores that are seeing increased volume right now, keeping those coils clean is really critical from a human health and safety standpoint, in addition to energy savings and reduced service calls and all of the other benefits that grocery store owners could see. Next slide, please. And so the other preventive maintenance measure we're going to spend some time talking about right now is refrigerant leak detection and repair. We have spent a significant amount of time over the last year plus figuring out how we can support this from a few different angles. And so we'll just dive right in. Next slide, please, Zoe. So energy efficiency impact of leaks. This is, I tried to keep this slide somewhat vague because the energy efficiency impact of refrigerant leaks on the system performance is very variable, and it's something that a lot of people are still working to figure out how we quantify that. It varies, of course, by system type and configuration, but low refrigerant charge at a high level can result in increased compressor and condenser duty cycle. You have less refrigerant capacity, and so your refrigeration system components are running more to provide the same cooling benefit. If you have longer run hours, obviously that's more kWh used on your system. There are some studies that estimate a 1-to-1 correlation, so 1% efficiency, 1% refrigerant leak is equivalent to 1% efficiency hit on your refrigeration system. And then this chart on the right is another study that was presented at the ICR conference in 2013, and this was for an HVAC system where they were able to quantify, not exactly linear, but a strong correlation between low refrigerant charge and increased annual running cost. So again, this is something that from an energy standpoint, we're very interested in. And then there are also a lot of non-energy benefits for our customers that are especially relevant at our current time. Next slide, please. For smaller systems that don't have a liquid receiver, which gives you a little bit of extra battery of refrigerant. So, refrigerant leaks may be less impactful at a certain point on your refrigeration system energy consumption. for smaller systems, we've estimated and we've launched a program in Vermont to support small and medium customers with refrigerant leak repair. And here are just some high-level energy savings estimates that we've come up with through the development of a TRM. And it's relatively small energy savings, but it's also a relatively small cost. Typically what we've seen for a comprehensive refrigerant leak audit and repair is $500 to $3,000 a project, ranging from a small convenience store to a large grocery store where a contractor's in there for 3 days. So these really can be cost effective from energy savings alone, but as I mentioned, there's plenty more benefits. So next slide, please, Zoe. Refrigerant cost, just the pure material cost of replacing refrigerant that's lost through leaks to the atmosphere. That can be quite a big motivator for customers, especially if they're still using R22. That's being phased out. Its price is going up as supply goes down. And so this is just a helpful graphic from the EPA Green Chill program, which is a voluntary program for grocery stores to reduce their leakage rates. And there are multiple benefits of participating in that program. But this slide uses, it assumes average leakage rates and then what their participants are able to get their leakage rates down. They're able to cut them almost in half through proactive leak maintenance and repair. And this assumes a pretty low cost of refrigerant, about $6 a pound. That's where they're getting those annual cost savings from of $2,400. It varies by refrigerant and by state, but refrigerants can be, easily $10 to $30 a pound. And so just the material cost savings for customers can be pretty significant. Next slide, please. This is a big one for our current moment, equipment reliability. Low refrigerant charges can lead to compressor short cycling, them firing on and off, multiple times a minute, more frequent service calls, and eventually equipment failures. And this leads to product quality concerns. You certainly don't want your refrigeration system to go down when you're seeing increased volume and people are opening up doors more times per day, and you're trying just to keep product on the shelves, let alone keeping product when a refrigeration system has gone down. So this is really the most significant benefit from preventive maintenance in the time of COVID-19. And we have seen systems go down because of low refrigerant charge. And again, that just gets you into a situation where you are either shelling out money for an expensive service call, or you're buying a new piece of equipment or a new compressor. It's an unexpected expense, and rarely in that situation is the customer making a high efficiency equipment choice. Next slide. Just a summary of the benefits of leak repair. We can go right to the summary slide, Zoe. So just for the sake of time and having any questions, here's a high-level summary of everything we talked about today. Refrigeration systems are serving a critical need now more than ever, and they're still using significantly more energy to do that than they have to. And so there is still room for traditional efficiency projects to make sense and be sensitive to our customers during this time, starting with some low-risk measures that Nicole mentioned, working up to more complex ones, and really utilizing refrigeration contractors who are essential workers and are huge allies from a utility standpoint, and being flexible and looking at preventative maintenance measures as well during this time. And I'll hand it back over to you, Zoe.
Great, thanks so much, Ellie, and thank you, Ethan and Nicole as well, for providing, what is a huge amount of information in an extremely condensed time. I know there's an awful lot of information that you, our listeners, are digesting right now. We do have a few moments left to help answer any questions that you wanted to ask of either of our presenters directly. two quick comments I just wanted to share directly as well. Comments to the distractions, and apology for what appears to be Salesforce intent on getting me to log into the system in spite of being uninstalled this morning. So for those that are going to get the slide deck, that distraction will no longer be in there. But again, the recording unfortunately will include that. And also a quick note, I did hear, and we will look to rectify this for future sessions, that apparently the bottom part of the screen of each of the slides appeared to be missing for the audience view. So again, apologies on our side for missing those two elements there, but we will make sure that the slide deck itself will include all of the information, and you can get that final bit for the slides that were missed. So going through to the questions, it looks like we have one that came in, and I'll pose this really to Ali, you and Ethan and Nicole, to who wants to answer it. But the question is, have you seen interest from local governments to create or fund programs to address refrigerants as part of their climate action plans?
Yeah, I can start that. Everyone else can feel free to chime in as well. Yes, we have. We're very interested in having those discussions, and we did actually work. Ethan and I worked with the Delaware Natural Resources. I forget exactly their acronym, DNREC. They're basically Department of Environmental Conservation, to design a refrigerant retrofit program where in existing systems, using RGGI funds to convert systems to lower GWP refrigerants, and then providing an enhanced incentive for new systems to go towards a natural refrigerant system, or still providing an incentive based on offset CO2e emissions for low GWP refrigerants that are still synthetic.
Great, thank you, Ali. And then another comment that just came in that's followed by a question. So I'll read the comment first and then the follow-up question. The comment is, I'd like to see more manufacturing of water-cooled refrigeration since it would offer the lowest energy use. It can also allow waste heat to be used and is effective in extending the life of refrigeration equipment. I realize that you focused on low cost and high payback, not looking at refrigeration from the 10,000 foot elevation. Condenser water systems are present in many buildings, and its ability to increase energy efficiency and making it specific and specified in more designs. But the question is, do you think that there will be more manufacturers providing water-cooled equipment?
I can take this one if people are okay with that. I do see I think there will be an increased focus, especially as our peak summer temperatures increased from manufacturers, to focus on water-cooled equipment. I think it's likely going to be adiabatic condensers, which have the ability to run water to control to wet bulb temperature during the summertime, but then also run dry with no water during the wintertime. I think that's kind of that beautiful marriage of like a standard dry condenser with and a water-cooled tower. That technology uses significantly less water, so it's not as much of an issue in water-stressed regions, while getting you the energy savings associated with controlling the wet bulb temperature.
Great.
So yes,
thanks.
I do think that that's an increased area of focus.
Perfect, thanks. And there's a few more questions that are popping in here, so I'm gonna just rattle off a few comments here. But thanks so much. The VEIC knows it's refrigeration, and then a quick question to, can you provide some examples of what kinds of programs do utilities, localities, or others offer to implement the ECMs that you've discussed today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take this one as well. I think there are significant utility interest, especially in the Northeast. When I talk with other utilities like Unitel or National Grid, and we talk about installing new natural refrigerant systems and some of these EMs that we mentioned today, they typically can support them. They're typically supporting them on a custom basis. And when they do it, and so we provide the energy savings calculations for them to, and we are getting incentives towards the implementation on some of the EMs we talked about today.
Right. Thank you, Ethan. And just a reminder to everybody who's typing in this question, yes, this presentation will be shared and the recording will be shared with all registered participants today. We'll have that out by the end of this month. I think one quick final question before we need to wrap things up was, have you considered opportunities in refrigerated food, transportation, or distribution? So looking at fleets, for example, trucks that have to be running to maintain temperatures during the entire transportation process overnight, that adds energy use and pollution from the vehicle itself.
Yeah, and I'm happy to take this one if that's all right. So this is something that we are just starting to look into, and we're starting to pilot program with phase change materials and what that might look like in the refrigerated trucks and or in pallets that have the products stored on them. And another transportation efficiency measure that we're looking into, being in Vermont and having a large dairy sector, increasing the size of bulk tanks that can store more milk so that farmers can go from daily delivery to every other day, therefore reducing the emissions associated with the transportation sector. This is a market that's relatively untapped right now, but certainly something that we're excited about because it contributes to reducing food waste, which was another one of the items Ethan talked about in terms of reducing our impact on climate change and kind of saving our planet.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. And I think that's a really nice just reminder to everybody, again, what I mentioned at the beginning, that, you know, VEIC as an organization has experts that range from efficiency building and transportation, electrification. And one of the things that we do internally is to really work to collaborate to come up with innovative solutions of how refrigeration touches not just buildings, but also touches other sectors such as the transportation sector. So thank you for that question. Just as a reminder for everybody, again, this is the first in a 3-part series that's being offered by VEIC for free to you, to our colleagues, to our friends, to our customers, and to our clients. If you're interested, we do hope that you're going to be joining us next week, the same day, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to be focusing on sharing our thoughts on how to engage and encourage homeowners in energy smart spring cleaning activities. It's that time of year. For those who are familiar with Efficiency Vermont, I'm going to be joined by Dave Keith, who is a well-known teacher and has done thousands of presentations and training sessions on a wide range of residential efficiency programs and different opportunities for engaging with customers. So we hope that you'll come and join us again then. Now, if you haven't registered, don't forget, again, anybody that attends will receive the recorded presentation as well as a copy of the slide deck. And again, you will be receiving the slide deck presentation recording from today's discussions as well. As a quick reminder, we will be following up with everybody with a link to this short survey. It doesn't take too long, a few moments, nothing more than that. We please, do look to your insights, your feedback. It helps us do our work better, deliver our message better, helps us ensure that we're thinking strategically and collaboratively of how we can help support our customers and create and generate the impact that we're looking for. For now, I want to say again, on behalf of VEIC and Ethan and Ali and Nicole who joined me here today, thank you. Thank you for your time. And as everybody sits where they are from their home offices and elsewhere, we really do hope that you, your families, and your colleagues continue to remain safe and healthy. And we look forward to welcoming you back next week. Thanks so much.